be a pastor ever since I was 13 years old. So it feels like it's been a long journey, you know, and sometimes like I just kind of sit back and I'm just like, whoa, how did I get here? You know, how am I like, I don't know, how am I 27 years old and I'm like the solo pastor of this church, you know? It's like amazing and horrifying at the same time. Favorite thing about being a pastor? Well, I just love people. I love working with people of all ages, and that's kind of how this whole thing started. When I was 13, my mom and dad were like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, well, I'm not sure, you know, but I know I want to work with people of all ages. And then I went to this awesome Lutheran camp for confirmation camp and, you know, kind of put all the pieces together, and I really felt like God was calling me to be a pastor, and so like, you know, I love working with the kids. I love working with the older adults. I love like visiting our shut-ins at their homes, you know, and hearing their stories. I mean, a couple of my shut-ins are like in their 90s. I've never met anybody in their 90s. I swear there must be something in the water in Illinois because there's just so many people in their 90s. I'm just so impressed. So that I love Rockford is a small little city, but there's a lot going on there, and there is there's a lot of collegiality among the Lutheran pastors and other denominations too. There's like a clergy association that includes pastors from all different denominations in Rockford, including a Muslim imam and a Jewish rabbi. So they are very cool, and I've gotten to know them a little bit already. And actually on Monday we're having lunch with the imam, and he's really great. He's really down to earth, very relatable, and you know, is just doing great things in his community. And they just built this beautiful new mosque. So I am all about working together ecumenically and interfaith-wise. I think that we have a lot to learn from each other, and I think that in an increasingly diverse and postmodern world, we need to work with each other. You know, we're especially mainline Protestants like Lutherans. You know, our attendance has been declining, our giving has been declining, you know, and so we need to kind of pull our people. And actually, it was really cool. Like, I really value it to take into my congregation too. So I took my confirmation class to a synagogue, and a bunch of other confirmation classes. We all went together, and the rabbi, she's very cool, and she comes to our clergy lunches, and sometimes she comes to tech study too, and so she invited all of us over and kind of showed us around the synagogue, and showed us their worship space, and kind of let us walk around, and it was really good. You know, I think it's really important to teach the kids about other religions too. And then I did the same thing with the mosque, and unfortunately I didn't have any of my kids come, but I think they were busy and stuff like that. But I'm gonna try again because, you know, I think it's important, especially for us to visit a mosque, an Islamic community, you know, is so important right now because there's the religion of Islam is just so misunderstood right now that I think that we as Christians, as like brothers and sisters in, you know, the Abrahamic faiths, that we need to support each other and we need to be advocates for one another. So I did have like 4 parishioners go with me, so adults, and you know, they're gonna spread the word to other people in the congregation that, hey, it was pretty cool, you know, and the imam is very good at like bringing it down to our level, and their new building is gorgeous. So even if that just pulls people in, you know, like, yeah, come see this gorgeous new building, you know. So yeah. I think it's really important to work together, and I think that's one of my passions too. Is just like continuing to work together.
As a pastor,
Yeah.
you know, like how does that come up? How do you search for the husband? Because that's an obstacle.
Good question. Yes, it is. You got it. Yeah, well, a lot of my friends got married in seminary, which, you know, I would have thought would be the ideal situation too. You know, because like you're both pastors, or at least if one of you is not going to be a pastor, like you understand the whole like life of the church and like the kind of lifestyle we live. You know, because being a pastor is not just a job, it's a lifestyle. You know, you're always a pastor, whether it's your day off or, you know, whether, you know, you're on call all the time, because people can call you in the middle of the night and be like, hey, I just got in a car accident, can you come visit me in the hospital? And you should go, you know. So I need somebody who will understand that and who will be supportive of that, you know. Like I dated this guy for a while, a couple years on and off, and we tried so hard to make it work, but you know, it was personalities, but it was also the fact that he is not a Christian. And, you know, I thought that I could make that work because I'm a liberal person. You know, I'm progressive. And, you know, well, why should I limit myself to just Christians, you know? But in the end, he wasn't supportive enough. You know, I wanted somebody who would, like, go to church with me. Like, they don't have to be involved in church, but it would be nice if they shared the same beliefs as me, you know? So that's somebody. I'm definitely looking for someone who's a person of faith, you know, like they need to understand what I do, you know, but I also like want somebody who's a good fit no matter what. I mean, whether they're a pastor or whatever they are, you know, like I think that there's pros and cons. Like, you know, for me, I wouldn't mind marrying someone who's not a pastor, because we can come home and talk about our days, you know, and I can talk about being a pastor and he can talk about, you know, whatever he does. I mean, I'd like to marry, you know, a doctor or a lawyer or something, you know.
Yeah.
I would love to be in Chicago or New York. You know, my degree, I have a master's of divinity, but then I also have a certificate in urban ministry. So that's kind of like my passion. And in Rockford, you know, we are technically in the city, and we are technically an urban congregation. So I feel like this is a good place to be for my first call. But like I said, I would love to be in a bigger city with even more interfaith connections, even more, you know, collegial opportunities, and more progressive thinking. You know, like another passion of mine that I don't often get to talk about is my advocacy for the GLBT community. You know, and that's like a big passion of mine, but I don't feel like I can talk about it very much at my congregation because they're very conservative in that realm.
Yeah.
So like I'm on PFLAG, like there's a Rockford chapter of PFLAG, and so that's a good outlet for me right now to be involved in that. And it's very new, so we're not doing too much right now, but it's exciting to be part of something that's new in Rockford and see what kind of possibilities there are to further the group and to do some good like advocacy and stuff like that. And there's a couple people in my congregation that know about it. It kind of like slipped out, but it's not just in church, but in our culture in general. I think it's a hot button issue, but unfortunately in the church it's even more so, I think. But I'm really proud of the ELCA because 2 years ago at our church-wide assembly, we passed a resolution saying that we welcome gay and lesbian pastors in committed relationships. The former policy was if you were gay or lesbian, you could be a pastor, but you had to be celibate, which is just, I feel like when I'm done preaching, I feel good about it. If I feel good about it feel good about the message that I proclaimed. Like, if I felt like the Holy Spirit was with me, you know, like, honestly, there are some times where, you know, I feel like I've preached a sermon and I feel like, it's good. I'm sure somebody got something out of it, but I wasn't really into it, you know. But then there are other times where I get out of the pulpit and I'm just like, yeah, I feel really good about that, you know. And I kind of, I don't know, I need to encourage myself in that because I don't get a lot of feedback from the congregation. Like, every once in a while somebody will say, oh, good sermon, or I really liked your sermon today, but most of the time I don't get that feedback, which I think I really miss. Because in seminary, and like when you're an intern, you get that feedback from your supervisor and from people in the congregation all the time because you're learning, you're a student. But now I'm a pastor, and I guess it's a little different. Excuse me. Every week in the Rockford area, there's 2 tech studies where pastors get together and talk about the lectionary texts for that coming Sunday. So we do get to bounce ideas off of each other at that point. So like there's one on Tuesday afternoon that's like more ecumenical. Actually, we call it beer and Bible because we usually drink at it. So, and for the summer we're going to be meeting at a bar. So we're very excited. And then Thursday morning is another one, and that's just Lutheran, and, you know, getting together and usually reading the gospel lesson for that Sunday and then talking about it together. So that helps a lot. That really does help a lot. And there's so many, like, web resources too, and like even Facebook groups and stuff like that. So I would say that pastors utilize technology a lot in sermon prep. I know I do. You know, there's books and stuff too, but I don't have a ton of those books just because I'm a newer. I visit with my spiritual director for about 2 hours. We talk, and you know, the whole idea of a spiritual director is someone who like is kind of your spiritual companion, you know, like helps you to see how God is working in your life. So I find that to be really, really helpful because, again, like I'm an extrovert and I like to process things with people. And so, you know, meeting with her is really helpful because she's someone who I can just talk to, you know, like it's just about me for those 2 hours. Like, it's not about like creating a social conversation where it's 2 ways. It's not a counseling thing on my part, you know, it's not about me listening to someone else. It's just about me talking and, you know, talking about what's happening in my life, and she kind of helps me to like connect the dots, you know. You know, she's like, well, I hear this and this and this. It seems like this is going on in your life. You know, it seems like there's a lot of change or you know, or something that you're struggling with, or like how God is present in different situations and stuff like that. So I find that to be really, really, really helpful. And, you know, like my synod is really good at like providing stuff like that too, like spiritual retreats, or, you know, I like to be outside. Like, I love that the weather is getting warmer now. Like, I can sit out on my porch and like I love like when the sun is setting and like it's just getting dark and just sitting out on the porch, and I live like right behind this cornfield, and so like there's a lot of stars. I can see so many stars.